Hello, this is Christy Schaefer, and welcome to the Attitude of Altitude. Do you remember when you were a kid and your parents would say to you, hey, finish up your dinner? Remember the starving children in Africa. And you might have thought to yourself and maybe even said to your parents, well, they can have my Brussels sprouts if they want to. We'll send them to them. But the point that your parents were trying to make in that moment in time is for you to appreciate what you have, because there are people around the world that don't have everything that you have. And I think even as adults, it's a good lesson for us to learn to appreciate the things we have. If you are human, you have experienced times in which your dreams just don't come true. Or when you're comparing yourself to someone else and you come up short. Or your expectations don't result in reality. We've all been there. And sometimes we like to play pity parties. I used to work with World Vision when I was a singer. World Vision, if you've never heard of them, is a Christian organization that in relief and development all around the world, helping out the poorest of the poor. And during my time, I had a chance to go and see firsthand what they were doing in some of the countries around the world. And I remember when I was in Guatemala, and we went to go and spend a day at the city dump. We went there because there are people who live at the dump. They would scrounge for food all day long through the trash. They would look for things like tin cans and things that they could sell. And then at night they would sleep in the trash, in the dump, just to stay warm. And there were several children who were there. And while we were there, I met a young man, about 9-10 years old, named Enrico. And through an interpreter, I listened to his story. And he shared that in his family, his parents would send him out into the streets to beg for money. Very common in that area for the kids to do. Didn't go to school, but went out every day to beg for money. And if he would come home empty-handed, his dad would beat him. And so he ran away from home. He had another family that took him in, but then eventually the same thing happened to him again. So he stood there just as stern as could be, and he said, so I ran away and I don't need anybody. I don't need a family. I'm going to make it on my own. And that day my heart just broke for this little boy who I realized he had no one who loved him. He had no one he could call family. He had no place he could call home. And it just broke my heart. And I think realizing that there are people around the world that don't have all of the things we have puts life into perspective for us and helps us to appreciate the things that we do have. You know, you may be disappointed today in whatever it is. Something may not turn out the way that you had planned. But I want to encourage you to remember that you really do have it good. That there are so many things that you have in your life that are good. In fact, compared to the world, we as Americans are rich. We are wealthy. And also to remind you that sometimes the greatest joy isn't just in seeing your dreams come true, but it's in going out and helping someone else's dreams come true. When I shared, when I worked in the music industry, I would share Enrico's story at so many of my concerts. His story had touched my life, and I shared those and gave people an opportunity to sponsor a little boy or a little girl in a poverty-stricken country and make a difference in their life. And what a great joy it was to watch that happen. You can make a difference in somebody's life today. Go out and find a way to do something for someone else that doesn't have what you have, and watch your attitude change to an attitude of altitude. Have a great week.